Asking someone what their FTP is the cycling equivalent of asking a gym bro, how much do they bench? Like most cyclists, I've completed many an FTP test, some of which I've documented on here. And of course, knowing your FTP is a great way to be able to track your progress, to track your fitness, as well as be able to accurately predict your training zones. But recently, I've stopped testing and measuring mine for two main reasons. Let me tell you why. Do stay tuned until the end, because I think the second and final reason is something that a lot of us cyclists with day jobs and limited time to train really need to consider. But the first reason is that simply because I was so focused on improving my FTP and my fitness, I just wasn't enjoying my riding anymore. I posted a video a while ago about my overcoming depression with cycling. That's kind of why I started and why I enjoy it. It's brilliant for my mental health as a way of sort of getting out there, getting some fresh air, not necessarily just about improving my fitness, although of course that is a benefit of it as well. As humans, it's only natural that we want to improve doing any activity that we do. And of course, when we are out there riding, we want to be improving our fitness. We want to know it's improving our health, our wellness, our physical health, but also our mental health as well. But unfortunately for me, I kind of got to a point where I was focusing on the fitness element so much, I'd kind of forgotten about the mental well-being aspect of getting out there and getting out on the bike. If things were getting in the way of my planned sessions, like illness or something came up at the weekend or whatever it might have been, I was getting quite frustrated about the impact that this would have on my planned FTP test that I'd had planned in 2 months' time. And whilst it's great to put some pressure on yourself to improve your fitness, it's not great when it's impacting your mental well-being and your likelihood and want and motivation to get out on the bike in the first place. And obviously being a personal trainer and coach, it's quite important to me that rides have a purpose and I'm trying to be in a certain zone for a certain period of time. But it got to a point where all my rides, every single ride, all sort of 3 rides I can usually manage per week were about being in zone 2 or being in zone 4, a threshold ride or an interval session. But I just had no rides in just to get out, enjoy myself, get some fresh air, reduce the stresses of normal day life. And of course, there's so many other things we can look at tracking as well that can help improve our performance on our bike, such as strength training, hitting the gym, which is something I do a lot of anyway, looking at improving our nutrition, our bike handling, and how much cake we can eat at our usual cafe stop too. Although I do feel I've got that one nailed already. And if you think about it, and something I talk about with a lot of my clients as well, is that professional athletes have off seasons. They have periods of the year that they're kind of building up to. They go all out for certain periods of the year. Their fitness is at kind of top level and peak level, but then they have an off season where they kind of do more relaxed riding, or they sort of chill out more, enjoy going out for cafe rides or whatever it might be, more zone 2 training. That allows them to recover physically, but also mentally as well. This isn't something we necessarily do as everyday cyclists or people just generally trying to improve our health and well-being. It's something that I've definitely forgotten to do and haven't done in the past year or so. It's not necessarily something we talk about much, unfortunately, as well, but there's a group of people who potentially need to just do a little bit more, get a little bit more active, but I fall in the category of trying to push myself just a little bit too much, do too much, over-obsess about something as well, try to get fitter, try to push, try to hustle, and unfortunately, that's just not maintainable or sustainable in the long term, but it's something a lot of people struggle with. And I think this is partly down to things like social media, for example, seeing people out there, potentially like me on YouTube, pushing, training hard, whatever it might be, and we feel we kind of have to keep up, where really the only race we're running, or cycling in this case, is the one against ourselves. Now, of course, you can still track your FTP, do some intense training rides, and just use some rides to enjoy yourself and get out there in the fresh air as well. And that's definitely the approach I'll be taking after I've taken a little bit of a break away from testing my fitness. Now, the second and final reason as to why I've stopped tracking my FTP, at least for the time being, is that I kind of maximized my cycling time per week. And to get any better or to get any further improvements, I'd need to find time and carve out time across my already busy week to further improve my fitness. I'd already achieved a 330 watt FTP, which I was pretty happy with around about 5 hours riding per week. But I know to kind of improve that even further, because I'd already maxed out my current training, I'd need to just add more time riding, more time in the saddle. And given that I have other commitments outside of cycling and health and fitness, such as a full-time job and a wife and other things like that, it means that unfortunately I don't just have that extra time to apply to cycling as much as I'd like to. So what I've started doing is taking my own advice that I offer to a lot of my clients, and rather than focusing on a specific goal that I want to achieve, focusing on what I can actually do each and every week, and then allowing that to dictate what I can achieve. It's very common we decide, for example, in my case, I want to achieve a 350 or 400 watt FTP, for example, even though that would be far off if I could ever achieve that, but not necessarily realizing the amount of time I would need to dedicate out of my normal routine to go and achieve that. It's the same, for example, as a lot of us, I want a six-pack, but we don't actually realize the amount of cookies we've then got to not eat, or the amount of exercise we've then got to go and do to try and achieve that six-pack. It's of course great to have some kind of goal and direction to move towards, but actually we need to look at reasonably what we can actually do each and every week to push potentially towards that goal, and if that's going to be enough to reach that goal we want. Because if we don't feel like we're reaching that goal, we're going to get demotivated and demoralized, which was what was happening to me. So will I track my FTP in future? Well, probably yes. At some point I'll probably try and adopt that approach that I mentioned before, tracking my FTP, knowing my training zones, and then doing some intense training rides, but then also having rides set aside for just enjoying myself and getting outside. But for the time being, my training is just going to be about getting out on the bike as well as hitting the gym as well, just to kind of improve my mental well-being, get some fresh air, maybe smash it up a few climbs. And when I say smash it up a few climbs, I mean lug all 87 kilos of myself up a hill. If you're anything like me, you know it's so easy to be hard on yourself. Some of the things I tell myself in my mind that I'm not doing enough, or I should be doing this and I should be doing that, I'd never say to another person. And I just wanted to kind of put this video out there to share my approach to my sort of cycling for the foreseeable future, and maybe just get one or two people watching to have a little bit of a think about their training and how it's serving them right now, because it's so important to be kind to yourself and just enjoy your riding, something I seem to have forgotten in the past couple of months. If you enjoyed this video, do check out this one here where I go through a method of tracking your training zones that no one's really using, and it doesn't require you to know your FTP. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in next week's video. Ride strong.